Hello, my name is Beth Taylor and today's session is going to be on phonics recovery, closing the gap. This course will be useful for you if you are working within years 1 to 3 and currently teaching phonics, or if you're working further up a primary age school and need some strategy for teaching phonics to your children that need it. During this session we aim to establish how we identify gaps within phonics, to understand how to run recovery interventions alongside current teaching, and to establish a bank of ideas for you to use within your daily practice.
In your individual schools, you'll all be using different schemes, whether that be more popular ones like Read, Write, Ink, self-made ones, or perhaps you're using things like Phonics Play. All these schemes just have a different sequence into introducing various graphemes and phonemes. They work in different ways and they have slightly different priorities, but they are all aimed at raising your ability for your children in reading and spelling. They are designed to cover a whole year's worth of work most normally, and they will have breaks sometimes for consolidation. But if we take too big a jump back for a recovery curriculum, then we will never cover a whole year's curriculum alongside filling gaps. What we aim to do today is to give you an approach that will run alongside a phonics scheme that you are using currently. This will mean you'll do your normal phonics lesson and then use some of the strategies given today in different areas, whether in small groups or in outside interventions. Identifying gaps. So by now in the year, most baseline tests are probably complete. They usually comprise of a phonics screening if you're in year 1, or perhaps some reading and writing of phase 2 to 5 sounds. When you do this, it is absolutely vital that you concentrate on reading and writing, and you also add in tests on common exception words. This will bring up your general level of reading and writing across the year. The big question is though, what do you do with that data? You don't want the data that you have on your children to be unused, and you want it to be individual. So it's important that you are firstly not group testing children, but individually testing them and giving them ample opportunity to show you everything they know. From there, it's important to group children due to their gap. You may have a group of children that are really great with their phase words and their sounding out for their segmenting and their blending is really good, but they need work with their common exceptions. You then may also have a group that are very phase 2 needy, or a group that are further up with phase 5 needy. This will depend whether you are currently working in years 1 to 3 or further up, and it may change for groups of children and it may change within the year. This is why we absolutely need to prioritise using small groups, as well as incorporating home learning, so that the learning that the children have is individual, but is a holistic approach between home and school. Planning for school moves, small groups. Currently, I would expect that if you're in year 1, you would be planning recovery for phase 2 and 3. In year 2, you'd expect to be planning recovery for phase 3 and 5, and in year 3, you'd expect to be planning recovery for phase 5A to C. Now, this does not mean that there would be children that are at different stages of this, and you maybe have different areas where you want to target your energies. It may be that your children are phase 3 ready in reading, but their writing is not phase 3 ready. So you need to identify whether your main focus should be reading or writing, or a general phonics focus across both, just on one phase. Planning for small groups. So it's unrealistic for you to think that you will be able to get an additional phonics lesson in every single day for the whole of your class. This may be something that you may be able to provide provision for at current, but this will not be able to last all year. So it's important that you find some targeted activities that either act without intervention and need for teacher time, or work in interventions of 15 minutes and under. This means that if you're giving a TA half an hour to do phonics interventions, they will be able to complete 2 small groups in their day, or you can have a group that are working independently on a phonics intervention without teaching, which we'll talk about later. It would be recommended that these take place frequently and also hold an element of home learning. So I would expect that if you want to fill gaps appropriately, that these sessions would be happening 2 to 3 times a week and be consistent each week to have ultimately the maximum impact. We'd also expect that element of home learning to be parents getting different phased groups with flashcards, intervention sheets. They're getting some knowledge of what their children need and how it is to be done. This might mean that you need to hold some sort of meeting with your parents to talk about the expectations. No teaching activities. No teaching activities are one of my favourite types of intervention because they often happen without the need for an adult. It may be that they need some training of how to use them and how to utilise them, but after that, usually you can leave them to it. No teaching activities work best when they are around different areas of the school. They flow through different lessons and they work with everyone. People need to know about them and know what's available. So it might be that you want to put some no teaching activities into your phonics policy that you are currently using. On the screen you can see pictures of different activities. I'm going to talk through what they are now and how you might use them. One of my favourite things to use is playground games. Children spend an awful lot of time on the playground, especially in Key Stage 1 where they might be having some continuous provision time or an afternoon break. Using playground games but like drawing chalk letters and sounds onto your playground, or perhaps you have a site agent that will be able to support you even spray painting them on, and to be able to organise throwing games, jumping games, hopscotch, things like that, where they can go across and they say the sounds as they do it. With an adult around a break, that is games that they might be able to organise and involve children in. Other things like bowling or throw the hoop, where there's common exception words on bottles and they can throw the hoop. When it reaches one of them, they have to say it to their buddy. These are things that I've had great success with in the past. And also it usually helps with behaviour management at break time to have these things around. It gives a little bit more focus to their play. Add it into PE. So over the years I've been teaching phonics. I like to talk to other coordinators and see how we can add basic phonics skills into lessons in a wider range. So as well as add it in PE, we've got art. At the start of the year, most children in all year groups go over target practice, go over throwing and catching, and they go over colour mixing in art as well. The idea is that if you speak to your phonics lead, they might be able to make up some targets around school or where the PE sessions happen with different words to sound out. They sound out the word, they throw the ball in. Equally in art, when they're doing colour mixing, ask if they could do different colour mixing whilst writing common exception words. It may mean that you need to help supply these teachers with lists of words or sounds, but in school, if we want appropriate action towards phonics and raising the ability of reading and spelling, we need to work together as a team. If you are fortunate enough to be teaching your own PE and art, this is something that you can add in regularly to use every week or perhaps every other week. Fruit. In Key Stage 1, most children get free fruit as provided for snack. So as you can see on the screen, there is a picture of a basket of bananas and they have words written on them. All the children that picked a banana would then have to tell me what their word was. I might get the children that are in a certain focus group to help me and write the words on the bananas for others to read. This is just a really good way of building up words with certain sounds on, using common exception words, high frequency words, and it just adds to their exposure of how they see them and where they see them. Stickers. In Key Stage 1 especially, and even in Key Stage 2 where I currently teach, children love stickers. They love the ability to have something on their jumper to reference to. The way I use them currently is I will add a couple of stickers with words from the focus that we've had that day. So if you're going to do a small intervention with a focus of qua, as in quack and quiet, you may write them on a small sticker, stick it onto the child, and then throughout the day say, can you read those words to me that are on your jumper? Can you tell me the words that you're in a jumper? Can you put your hand over the sticker and write those words onto a whiteboard for me? It's the sort of thing that if you're talking to your whole team about them, when people see them around the hall, they can ask them, they can say to them the questions that I've just listed, and you're getting common things brought up again and again. And this really helps your children that have memory issues. So they will be able to work with others, with everyone around, to be able to learn a few skilled words. Wristbands. Wristbands work in a very similar way to stickers. The ones that I have photographed here are a stack that I have that I actually personally bought with phonics sounds already on. But a lot of these you can print off and just stick together to make a small wristband for children. You can write something on a strip of paper and get them to stick it together. They love it because they feel like they're wearing a bracelet. And it's really good for speed sounds. Again, while they're having a quiet moment, okay, say your speed sounds out loud off your wristband. What's that word on your wristband? Get them to set themselves up one, put it on and off their wrist, and you can definitely progress them, go from a few sounds, up it, go from 4 sounds to 8 sounds to 10 sounds, and then over time, hopefully they'll have things that they can take with them that will be useful. Another thing that I did particularly in my previous school was using hallways and toilets to have active activities. In reception and year 1, we're often very good at doing continuous provision and having provision around for children to access within their classrooms. But this often stops in the classroom. Children are constantly reading wherever they are, and they constantly want an activity to do. Whether you put phonics sounds around the mirror in the bathroom, put some different words on the back of the toilet doors, you put little activities like Bob and Bob in the hallway, you might have some sounds to high five on the way down the stairs as they say them, getting your whole class doing it. Or you might again have little stations like this outside on the playground or in your quad area if you're lucky enough to have one. These all get children working together, thinking about phonics wherever they are. Okay, they're great for focus on their reading, and it's amazing for when you're walking around the school with children to be able to say, what's that word? Could you sound that out? And get them doing it with you. We know as a fact that the more you see something, the more you do something, the better your memory is for it. If we exclude the areas that the children walk around all day during school as areas that don't have displays, activities for phonics, then we're limiting their phonics ability. So that works as well for the playground and the hallways and the toilets. As much as you can put in there for children just to do while they're sat doing nothing or looking at themselves, it really helps build their memory. Interventions. There's a lot to be said about phonics interventions. Most phonics strategies fulfill the teaching plan of revise, teach, practice, apply. This is perfect for a phonics lesson, but it may not be as relevant to a phonics intervention, especially if you want to put it down to 10 to 15 minutes. Within a 10 to 15 minute session, what I would aim to do is flashcard a phase worth of sounds. So if your session focuses on phase 2, I would then go through all the phase 2 flashcards with my group. If you've got one child that's particularly struggling, that might be when you use your sticker, stick it on them, and they can carry that around for the day. And then I would introduce the sound that I am concentrating on. If you are doing the all sound, you may show them the sound, get them to write it down, get them to say it in different voices, really vary it to get it into their memory. And then using that, I would read words with that sound. It may be that you use a sound slider so that each sound is there and it goes down to a different word. So you're sounding different words out. It may be that you're using games like the phonics slappers to read different words on the carpet all together as a group and then especially where they are. There's lots of different ways to do it. You might have written a sentence with a couple of those high frequency words for that sound in a silly sentence and get them to read it out. After that, I'd follow it up with some spelling of words for the sound. Once they can read them, once they know what that sound is and they are secure, they should be able to go on and spell it. So if they've been learning the all sound, as I said, and they carry on and they're looking, we're going to spell log. Do the sound buttons with them, log, get them to write it on their whiteboards. After we're gaining some success with that, you would look to go on to a dictated sentence. For the all sound, it may be, I have a lot of logs, full stop. Building up that basic sentence writing, but the main thing that you're assessing and marking on is your ability to write words with the all sound in. Okay, at this point I then might extend with a game of Ob and Bob, or different games that you may have. You may have a dominoes game, bingo game. If you're ever short for these games, you can find them a lot online. Phonics Play is great. You can find lots on TES that you can download, cut up and laminate, and Twinkle. There's plenty out there, and if you do struggle at all, you may email me to get some information on where to get those games. Home learning. For the past 6 months, a lot of our children, their main teacher has been their parent. And whether we feel like there's not been a lot of progression, there will have been some. Parents now are more than ever armed to help their children because they've been doing it, but they may need some help along the way. Firstly, parents' knowledge of phonics may be limited. They might not fully understand what it is. So parents need to be fully aware of what phonics stage is being taught, if it is being explicitly taught in your year group. If it is not, get your parents that are in intervention groups together. This can be on Zoom at the moment because we've got distancing happening, or maybe Teams. Talk through with your parents the phonics stages that your children are at, what is going to be covered, how you're covering it in the school, and how you would like them to cover it at home. If you're looking at phase 2 with a certain intervention group, send those children home with phase 2 flashcards. Before they do their reading each day, they can do those flashcards and then read their learning book that they've been sent home with. It may be that your children have issues with common exception words. Previously, I've used common exception word books in this. What I would do is I'd print out the common exception words, 5 on each page, year 1 or year 2. And then I'd say to parents every night, and if possible every morning as well, just ask them what those 5 words are. If they get all 5 words right, they get a smiley face. Once they get 5 smiley faces, they can move on to the next page, and then just casually keep testing them all the different pages. This is something that parents can do really easy. It can go in a small binder book or be stapled together as they get more pages. But it works really well for that quick recognition, and it should speed up their reading ability. It may then work that you say to a parent, once they've got through reading all their common exception words, each day get them to grab a piece of paper, tell them the word, get them to write it down. Another thing that you can do with parents, which is really easy, is show them some YouTube videos. Children spend a lot of time on YouTube these days. Things like Geraldine the Giraffe have amazing phonics videos all about reading and writing different words with specific sounds. So if your parents know which sounds they're covering, they will be able to use those videos independently. And sending dictated sentences home. If you send a list to parents of dictated sentences and say, when you're adding in your home learning, please can you just read this sentence to your child and try and get them to write it. It may be something that they do in collaboration with the flashcards, or even watch a YouTube video on a specific sound and then read that sentence, get them to write it down. All these things will help accelerate that learning and help for a holistic approach between home and school. So what now? We're coming to the end of our training, and it isn't a particularly long one. It's not going to have armed you with a perfect strategy of how to recover phonics, because each school is individual and you will know your situation better than I will. But have a think. Make the most of no teaching activities. Have them everywhere. Get some stickers ready. Get some wristbands prepared. Get some playground games going. The more opportunity you have for no teaching activities, the more accelerated progress you'll see, and you may even find that in lessons the focus is increased because they've been doing these things outside in their comfort zone. Contact parents that need to support children. If you've got groups of children that need support, do a Zoom. Talk through it. It's the sort of thing that a lot of Year 1 and reception teachers do in autumn term anyway, so let's not let it lapse. And if we've got this case that a lot more year groups need information on Zoom, talk to your phonics lead, help come up with the PowerPoint and run parents through it online. Planning quick interventions. I outlined a quick way of doing a quick intervention, talking about the sound. This applies for everything. If you need some ideas of quick interventions, feel free to contact and we can come up with some for you. But there is a lot of information out there. But small groups are key. The smaller your group, usually the higher the impact because they are getting that personalised learning. That brings us to the end of our session. Do feel free to contact me if you need it on b.taylor@thesharedlearningtrust.org.uk, and we will try and help set you up. Good luck with recovering the gaps that you have in phonics.